reporter there. Every news article, I mean, it's like India Abroad by Aziz Hanifa. His name is missing. And I was wondering what happened to him. I know that he's still writing. I mean, he's still writing for India Abroad, and I don't know exactly what his relationship is with the India Abroad, but I want to tell you about Washington Post. Washington Post no longer keeps a large staff on salary. It's contract basis. I don't know what the duties are, but whatever they are, they're sort of accounted for in the money, not as an obligation for a salary. New world. They're leading us into the new world.
Well, I don't know if they're leading us into a new world. Newspapers are changing, as everybody's been talking about for years, that newspapers are dying off, and nobody's come up with a new way.
Do you read a newspaper?
I do read newspapers. I read hard newspapers, but at the same time I also check other sources online and other newspapers that I can't get. Seattle Times. You know, I will go and check that out online.
Newseum, folks, is a wonderful headlines from all the newspapers in the front of the building, right?
We have today's front pages online from all over the world, and we are seeing huge changes, just like you're seeing in the masthead of India Abroad. And I think that one of the problems is this idea of how do we pay for news nowadays? How do people consume news, and especially people from another country who make America their home, how they are getting news from their homeland. And I think most people are going to their hometown papers online to check out the information and get it from that source rather than from through the eyes or through the lens of an American perspective.
But you know, we're consuming the news that were actually prepared by some of these reporters, but we're not paying for it. Isn't that something that we ought to stop and think?
That is a whole separate conversation, and the reality is that from the very beginning, newspapers and media sources never charged people to consume their content online. And people all over the world now refuse to pay money for anything online, and that is a problem because people will go to those free online sources way more than they'll go to the newspaper that costs 75 cents a day.
You know, it is tough for the journalist, and the Association of Newspapers is right now making a petition. I don't know where the petition is going to be, whether it's going to be the courts or some other government organization, and they're saying that we need to be paid for this. You know, actors and directors and the producers from Hollywood, they're actually getting paid every time their work goes into a different conduit. But newspapers still have that particular problem. How do they get paid?
That is a question that nobody is even close to being able to answer. And I think that the person who's going to answer that question is going to be somebody who is 10 years old right now. I think that is, we need somebody who does not know anything about journalism, does not know anything about how we consume news in the past to make a decision on how we will consume news in the future, and will completely redirect how media is paid for, how media is going to go into the future. It's something that people like us who have consumed news back when there were only 3 networks, we cannot answer that question because we are too biased, if you will, from our past experiences.
Maybe there will be someone out there who's an expert, can come in and explain to us how some of these you hate to see these newspapers going out of business. And by the way, the Washington Post does not have editors, you know, copyright editors. At one time, Washington Post has something like 3-4 dozen of them, and today they have 5 or 6 of them. Does that mean that the product that's coming out with so few editors, copy editors, that somehow the quality may get flawed, or the quality of information that you get may not be all right?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. It is, without copy editors, there is a degradation of journalism in print sources. Absolutely. I think there's a whole structure on how newspaper copy makes it into print, and losing the filter of copy editors really changes the kind of copy that you read. It saves writers from making really simple mistakes like spelling mistakes to dramatic mistakes that will change the respect that news organizations have. Plagiarism, can be caught by copy editors, syntax problems. Copy editors go through everything with such a fine-tooth comb that it really makes what you read something that you can trust and something that you don't have to even look at the mistakes over. Well, if something happens to the newspapers, I know I'm definitely going to miss having my cup of coffee while reading the good old print. Speaking of coffee, Starbucks are making some changes in the 16,000 stores all over the country. One store in particular is going from being a Starbucks to being called the 15th Avenue Coffee and Tea House. It's still a Starbucks, though. That's the thing. They're just adjusting, remodeling the store to seem as if they're a coffee house. Now, I don't know why they could possibly be doing this.
Very simple.
Okay.
It's your neighborhood store. That's what they're trying to say. Don't say Starbucks, because Starbucks is in every corner. So which corner is extremely important. So if you put the address first, you got a great model.
Totally disagree with you. I think that for the millions of dollars that I'm guessing Starbucks has used to brand itself as Starbucks, why change this one to Starbucks?
No. There's still Starbucks.
No.
But it's the location first.
Why would you want to be the neighborhood coffee shop? That went out of business when the Starbucks moved in.
I want to tell you, Starbucks CEO said that the sales of Starbucks have actually lifted this quarter. And the reason he gave was because the McDonald's and the others have come in as competitors. And, of course, he was trying to say, so they went to McDonald's, didn't like it, and came back to Starbucks. That's what he's trying to say. They had to redo the stores, and every few years these stores go through some renovation. And they're going through some renovation. There are going to be some new items on it. And they thought it would be a good idea to put the address first instead of Starbucks first.
But
I think it's a brilliant idea.
I think that it's silly. It's silly. People say people don't even say I want a cup of coffee now. They say I need Starbucks. That's the ubiquitous term for all things caffeinated. I need Starbucks. So now people are going to say I need 15th Avenue coffee and tea. It makes no sense to unbrand yourself. Why unbrand?
Speaking of brand names, folks, the newest brand name that you got to remember right here in Washington, D.C. is Castle's Tennis. Castle Tennis is run by Mark Iron. Second year in the business, and he got himself the championship trophy. So now he can be called and seen as the Redskins owner, the baseball, the Lerners, the Snyders. He's a cut above because he actually won the championship, and they have been not even close to it for a long time.
Well, who knew that Washingtonians love tennis so much? That was a surprise to me.
Well, they love. In fact, Leg Mason, which starts this week, was the only tennis in town, and I really thought Castle's